Let's say that you are a US firm and that you sell chips, semiconductor chips, to a company located in Europe. And let's say the sale price for the latest chip order was 3.2 million euros. If the exchange rate at the time is $1.22 per euro, then we can calculate that the total revenue in US dollars to this company, this US company, is going to be 3.2 million euros times $1.22 per euro, which equals 3.9 million US dollars. Remember, if you're thinking about whether to multiply or divide to convert these currencies, in this case, 1 euro buys $1.22. So I know if I go from euros to dollars, I'm going to end up with a larger number. And then likewise, if I go then from dollars to euros, I'm going to end up with a smaller number. But euros to dollars is going to be 1 euro buys more USD. So if I know then that if I got 3.2 million euros, I'm going to have more in terms of USD, in terms of the number size. So then I know then, just logically, that I've got to multiply this 1.22 number by the euros to get how much that's going to be in the US dollars. Okay, but suppose instead the European company had 90 days to pay the US company. Then the problem is that for the US company at least, they don't know what they're going to get. They're going to get something, but it depends on this exchange rate here, what this ends up being in 90 days. And so let's suppose that after 90 days, the US company agreed to this, fine, we receive the full 3.2 million euros in 90 days. But after 90 days, the exchange rate, instead, the US dollar got stronger. That is, $1, $1.20 buys 1 euro. 1 euro buys $1.20. So the euro buys now fewer dollars, and another way to say that is the dollar got stronger. Which sounds great, but the problem is that the company is getting paid in euros, and so they're getting paid in a weaker currency. And how much are they going to receive then? They're going to receive, in dollar terms at the end of 90 days, 3.84 million. Now if we can compare that to what the company originally was getting under that previous exchange rate, the $3.904 million, we see that the difference between these two is minus $64,000. They're getting $64,000 less as a result of the stronger dollar. And so this type of situation is why an exporter might attempt to hedge their currency exposure when they make these types of sales, when they book sales where the client pays them some point out in the future. And there are multiple ways to hedge this exposure. One way is through something called a money market hedge. Here, the client expects to receive, the U.S. manufacturer of the semiconductor equipment expects to receive payment in 90 days. That payment is going to be in euros. So in 90 days, they're going to receive 3.2 million euros. And the way that they are going to hedge that with a money market hedge is actually borrow almost all that amount immediately in euros. They're not going to quite borrow all of it, the 3.2 million euros, but they're going to go to a European bank and ask to borrow almost that amount. But they're going to deflate that amount by the cost of borrowing the money for 90 days, the interest. But the reason that they're going to do that is that then they're going to take the borrowed money and then immediately convert it at the spot exchange rate. And the reason why they do that is because now, they've immediately converted at the spot exchange rate, and so they know exactly how much they're going to get in terms of USD for this 3.2 million euros. They haven't received it yet, but they sort of did effectively, because they went and borrowed from the bank 3.2 million euros, or almost that amount, and then immediately converted that amount at spot. So they know exactly how much that amount is going to be in terms of US dollars. And the reason that this money market hedge works is that now that they know that they're going to receive in 90 days the 3.2 million euros from the buyer, when that day comes, they're going to take that amount and immediately pay off their existing 3.2 million euro loan, plus the interest. And that's why, to make this a perfect hedge, we deflate the amount of money that they're actually going to borrow by the cost of the interest. And if you do that, then this total payment here from the client is going to be just enough to cover all the cost, principal plus interest combined, on this European denominated loan. So that's how it works conceptually. Let's take a look at how this works with some numbers. We still know that they're going to receive in 90 days 3.2 million euros for the sale, and so what they're going to do is get a loan, but not for 3.2 million euros, because they have to cover the cost of interest. Let's say interest on this 90-day loan is 2.5% per year. That means that if they're going to borrow for a 90-day loan, it's 90 days because they know they're going to get paid in 90 days, and so they can take that amount and pay off the loan in 90 days. So they wouldn't want to get a loan for anything longer than that. But let's take this borrowed amount and deflate it by 2.5% divided by 4. In other words, 90 days over 360, we're like de-annualizing this annual number to get to a quarterly one for a 90-day one. And so this is the amount to borrow under this money market hedge. So they're not going to borrow 3.2 million euros, they're going to instead borrow something slightly less, 3.18 million euros. And then they're going to take this borrowed amount and immediately convert at the spot exchange rate. If the spot exchange rate is €1 buying $1.22, then that means these euros, which are immediately converted, immediately then become $3.879 million. And the key thing is that that's today. They received that today. They still don't get paid by the client until 90 days from now. But that's fine. What they've done is they've effectively closed the loop. In 90 days, they'll get paid 3.2 million euros. But at the same time, as soon as they booked this sale, they borrowed a loan for just about that amount. And so when they get paid from their client, the 3.2 million euros, they'll immediately use that to pay off the loan, the approximately 3.2 million euro loan. And in the meantime, as soon as they booked this order, they did this loan and converted the loan proceeds into dollars at the spot exchange rate. So they've gotten rid of their exchange rate risk because they know exactly how many US dollars they're going to get from this sale. Not 90 days from now. It doesn't even matter what the exchange rate does in 90 days. If the euro dramatically falls in value, they're still going to get paid 3.2 million euros, and they're still going to pay off that euro-denominated loan. Nothing really changed there. And in the meantime, they still would have received this $3.879 million. So that's why a money market hedge eliminates exchange rate risk. But relative to other hedges, there's one other benefit that you may have noticed that's there with a money market hedge that's not there with, say, hedging with a forward contract. And that's that you don't have to wait to get paid. Effectively, you get paid today from the sale in 90 days out into the future. And in the meantime, if you have something really useful to do with this money today, you can earn a return on that for the next 90 days. And that's a benefit that you wouldn't have received if you had used, say, a forward contract to hedge this order. And so if you're trying to compare hedging with, say, a money market hedge versus hedging with a forward contract, you have to put them on kind of the same footing. The fact that you're receiving this today instead of 90 days out into the future. First thing we need to do if we want to compare a money market hedge with, say, a hedge using a forward contract is to put them on equal footing. And the way we're going to do that is by considering the benefit of having the money today rather than 90 days out into the future. And that benefit is going to be contingent on how much use the company has for this money. What percentage return it can get on having this money today. And so the first step in this process of putting them on equal footing is to consider the firm's prospective investment return for this money. So suppose that this firm, if it had this $3.87 million today, could generate a return with that money of 4.5% per year, then our next step is to just scale up these proceeds, the $3.879 million, by the investment rate here. The only thing we need to consider is that this is a 90-day benefit. We're receiving this in 90 days earlier than we would with another hedging instrument. And so we have to, if we have an annual investment number, descale that down to a 90-day interest rate. So our investment growth of 4.5% per year becomes something smaller on a quarterly basis, specifically 1.25%. And so if we scale up this 3.879 by the benefit of having the money early, we can get a total proceeds for this hedge of $3,923,000 and $3,923,398. And so we can compare this amount that we received under the money market hedge to how much we could have received using a forward contract as a hedge for the same deal. Contract, we're still going to receive payment in 90 days. That hasn't changed. The only thing that has actually changed is how we're going to hedge it. So what we're going to do is today immediately enter into a forward contract. And so since we know that we're going to receive 3.2 million euros 90 days from now, we want to get a forward contract today that allows us to sell euros at a fixed price, a pre-specified price today. So we're locking in the rate at which we can sell those euros in exchange for dollars. But we're doing that today. However, the transaction doesn't actually occur until 90 days from now, unlike the money market hedge. So let's say that the forward contract that allows us to sell euros forward at a fixed price is pricing euros in exchange for dollars at a rate of $1.25 for every euro exchanged. At that exchange rate, what that means is that the company knows that in 90 days, when it receives those 3.2 million euros, it's going to be able to exchange them and convert them into dollars and receive a net 4 million USD. And that's it. Hedging with a forward contract is, by comparison to the money market approach, much simpler. But let's take a look, because if we want to compare, we've learned two different hedging approaches, the money market and the forward contract. We can take either approach for this client that's going to pay us in 90 days. But which one gives us the more money? Well, in this case, with the forward contract, we receive $4 million in 90 days. With the money market hedge, we receive $3.87 million today. But that's not really an apples-to-apples comparison, because this is received today, and this is received 90 days from now. And so kind of to consider the cost of capital, or the benefit of having this money 90 days earlier, we scaled that up amount, that received today, up by this investment proceeds, the rate of return at which we could get on this money for the next 90 days. And that amounted to a net benefit, or net proceeds for this hedge, the money market hedge, considering the fact that we received the money early, of $3.923 million. So in this case, we're better off by going with the forward contract. In fact, if we subtract this amount here from the $4 million, we can compare the exact difference between these two hedges. And in doing so, we see that if we take the forward hedge instead of the money market, that we're about $76,000 better off. So now you have in your toolkit, when dealing with important export issues, currency issues surrounding that, the ability to compare different hedging options. Both of them will eliminate your exchange rate risk, as we saw, but one leaves you better off than another. And the relative benefits, it just depends. You have to calculate each time to see which one will actually leave you better off in real life.